Next up, Bert van Overmeyer and Doug Evans will present what's new for SDS2.
Welcome, everybody, and thanks for attending our session. That's what's new in SDS2 2026. My name is Doug Evans. I'm the VP of North American Sales for ALLPLAN, located in Lincoln, Nebraska.
And I'm Bert van Overmeyer, a global technical sales engineer at ALLPLAN, mostly in the EU.
So today we're going to cover some of the features, not all the features, but some of the features that we've released in 2026. And we've broken them down into just kind of three areas. One we'll call database, things that aren't things you input in the model, but they're just kind of database items. Two, we'll cover modeling enhancements, things that you'll do in the 3D model. And lastly, kind of deliverables, drawing production, outputs, and reporting, things of that nature. So with that, let's get started. So in the past, when you have any construction type, and specifically as we move into the future, there's a lot of material types that happen. Since we're a steel detailing system, obviously we're strong in steel.
Yep.
One of the things that a lot of customers have asked is what can be done to enhance that material selection when I do run across other material types. So in 2026, Bert, have we done anything? What have we done to help with those additional material types?
Yeah, we have actually added the possibility to add a lot of different materials. And when you add their grades, you can also set the density for each material, what actually means that you can do weight reporting on all these materials. So that would be interesting, for example, for a staircase or anything like that. And what that actually also means is that right now we support a lot of non-steel materials. You can even add wood to SDS2. So let's watch a video on that because, well, I prepared a small video on that to see how that actually works. So if we go into material grades, let's go for plate grade in this case. We already have steel because that's by default there, but we can, for example, add aluminum as a grade type. Within aluminum, we can add certain grades. I'm just setting some at random here and add the density. We cannot add any of the other attributes to that aluminum grade because only density is currently supported. That means that the weight for an aluminum member will be calculated, or for many aluminum members at the same time. I'm adding another one here, and after that, what we can do, because do you have to do that every time for each one of the material grades? No, you can just copy paste in between of them. So you can create a favorite, for example. I made one here, you can see me load that example here, and aluminum is added, concrete is added, and glulam members are also added. So all those non-steel members can be easily added with some favorites that you can easily make within SDS2 and share with your colleagues. Now, if we go into the 3D modeling environment, let me just open this grading of the staircase, and I can change the grade to any of those aluminum grades that I just added. If we go into the general information, you can also see the weight of that item is added. Now, if I change that, then I can change it for the whole staircase. So in SDS2, whenever you change one thing on a member, SDS2 will always check if it needs to be changed on multiple elements at the same time if they are identical. Changing that grade will then, as I already said, change the weight of that item as well. This can also be done for a lot of other members. For example, here it can also be done for this member, this curved member that you just saw me double click. In the beam edit window here, the grade can just be adjusted to any other grade that you want. It could even be a wooden beam if you want to. It's completely up to you.
That's pretty good. And that gives a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
Another issue that would happen is now that you have all these different material types that you can add, people have piece parts, connection components, things that they're dealing with in the construction project, attachments that they have to deal with that are difficult or not just in the custom shape profile.
Yeah.
Have we added anything in 2026 to help support some of those different shapes for our customers?
Yeah, that was indeed one of the issues that we had. So you make all those new non-steel materials, but now you also need to model these materials, and like aluminum can be quite, for example, can be quite a specific material with very exotic shapes, let's say. So we needed to add something to be able to import those shapes in an easy way. And for that, we have created a new functionality within the SDS2 toolbox. So you can download that from the website when 2026 has been released. And it allows you to basically import any DWG into SDS2 into a new library environment and use that DWG 2D profile and extrude that. So you can see we have a small video on that as well. I'm opening that library out here. I've already prepared some aluminum extrusions in the past. So let me open them real quick. What you will see is that you have this tree-view library, which you can organize any way you want. So it's completely up to you how you want to do that. And for each of these profiles, even a few settings can be set. So the reference point can be set, for example. If you want to add an offset, you can set that offset. And in previous versions of SDS2, it would be really difficult to make something like that. Now it's just a matter of importing it. We're creating a member here. So I'm creating a member with a specific profile that I just selected. So I'm going back into that shape selected. What happens is that library that I made for myself will be opened, and I can just select any of the profiles that I have available. For example, this profile, we just say OK here. And what happens is the profile is modeled right away in 3D. Currently, there is no connection modeling between these custom profiles, which is kind of normal because these profiles can originate from anywhere, are very specific. So you would have to model the connection yourself. But with this new functionality, you get quite a powerful way of importing any 3D shape for any material grade that you want or material type that you want. And with that, let's go to the next slide.
Sure, and that's a real powerful feature. As you said, that's one that we couldn't do in the past as far as those shapes. So having that will certainly save a lot of time.
Well, you could do it manually, of course, but this is quite
For sure.
Automatically quite easy to do.
With weld layouts, so we've improved weld layouts in 2026 as well. With the advance of all the robotic welding machines and all the things that they need in codes and things like that, we've added things. So we've increased the precision on our welding. We have start and stop points and easier to add and move welds. And so you can select welds and create nodes. Again, being able to commute that automated fabrication process, that's really going to help with people that have invested in those 3D automatic machines that automatically weld steel. So I know those have been some good improvements in weld layouts in SDS2 in the model.
Yeah, I've seen them myself as well. Selecting layout nodes for welds and just adjusting the weld by dragging and dropping. It's quite an interesting and powerful improvement that we have.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the last things that I know that has been added to SDS2 is connection design is one of the most powerful functions in the system. That's the good side. The bad side is it creates automatically, very quickly, a number of reports and a lot of reporting requirements that people would spend a lot of time organizing to communicate to an external partner. I know we've done some things. What have we done there to help customers reduce the time in organizing and presenting their connection information to people?
Well, before, if you had a calculation report, you had a calculation report for each and every single connection that you made. It was good, but it could be better. With SDS2 2026, then this is one of my favorite added functionalities actually, we have added the possibility to group your connections, and then as what happens in the end is not only the connection will be grouped, but also the calculation report will be grouped. Let's go to the video to explain it in more detail. So what I first do is I will process all these members, because when I process the members, what happens is a hash will be made for each member, which includes, well, the things like the connection type, framing situation, limit states, the bolts, supported and supporting members, stuff like that. This hash, SDS2 will check all these hashes, and if they are identical, that means that the connections can be grouped. So that would mean when the geometrical material is the same, but maybe there is a different load state on the material, then they will be grouped. You see me showing here these connection group names in the video. For example, this BM8 one, it shows up a lot. We have a lot, so that means that all these connections are almost the same. Maybe they have different load cases, but apart from that, they are the same, and they can be grouped. And not only can we show this in the 3D modeling environment, but we can actually also show it in the layout editor. So let's go to the layout real quick. And what we can do here is we can enable connection group as well when we are creating, well, details in the layout. So if we switch here to the layout, I go into the erection views, and what you see on this roof is that all those connection grouping names are also added. Now, this is of course all visual, but what is the best added improvement? That's not only that you have it in the layout and you also have it in the erection view cleanup functionality, and you see a sneak peek here of how the new erection view cleanup looks, but we also have a report of it, and that's the most important one. So we can create a connection group report, and it will have a list of all connections that are identical or but maybe different loads. And below that, it will show you the calculation. And that calculation that you see will always be the worst case scenario. So if I have different loads, it will take the highest number and it will do the calculation around that, because that is, of course, a logical step, the most important. Well, you see me going through this calculation report here, and it looks like any other calculation report like we had in the previous versions, but now it's just grouped, so you will have less calculation reports, and it will actually be a big time improvement for you. It will make it so that, well, plans can go out faster, calculation reports can go out faster. You might have an advantage on your competitor with that. I think that's it for connection grouping. Let's go to the next slide.
That's certainly a feature that's going to save a bunch of times. Yeah. And I know we've made some enhancements with custom connections. So while SDS2's automation is outstanding, not all the time do you want it. So sometimes you're put in situations where SDS2 doesn't support the connection, and so you have to force the connection. Well, with these forced connections, we're now checking opposing connections and perpendicular connections, looking for fouling. And if it does foul, or if it does need to mash bolts, it's doing those erectability checks. That's a lot of automation to some manual processes in the past. And I know also, if you just want to turn off the intelligence of SDS2 by disabling frame and situation checks, you can do that. So that gives you total control, more like a library connection where you just pick a connection that you want, turn off the checks, and it'll just give you that connection. So those are some nice features for when you get past the automation. How can I improve my manual modeling connections? And I think these have been some nice enhancements.
Yeah, I think so too. And even that, more than forced connections, we have one big chunk here, the drawing editor.
Yeah, so we've covered some of the kind of database functions. We've gone over some of the modeling function. Now we're going to jump into the 2D. There's still plenty of time spent in the 2D world with drawing production. Sure. And I know enhancements there do change the time it takes to generate shop drawings. So what are some of the drawing improvements we've done? I know there's been a lot. If you could cover those, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, so there is a big list. I couldn't even fit it on this slide, so I put and many more below. But yeah, basically the most important thing is that we've worked on user interaction and performance. That means that we've tried to make things more easy for you to use. We've overhauled a lot of functionalities, and by doing that, we've also improved the performance a lot. So things are much faster than before, and the whole interface has actually changed. And I think the best way to show you is, again, with a small video, because I can talk a lot, but it's nicer to see it, I think. So first thing we notice is that drawings are no longer a pop-up, but they are now shown on the right. So everything is included on the right there. You can, of course, hide that right screen as well if you want to, but it's easy to switch between drawings. And all those shortcuts that you used to use before, the arrow keys, for example, still work. So no issue there. It's just that we moved everything to the right to make a dynamic interface. If we don't have pop-ups, you don't have to pick anything from a list. You can work any way you want, meaning also that with this dynamic interface, we could also improve the way we search. So now if you search for B1, for example, you get everything that includes B1, whereas before that wouldn't work. Also, the properties of every drawing are easily included and changes can be made, and the layers now too. So what that means is you can easily switch between the layers, whereas before you would have to go in a function and change the layer. Now it's quite easy to do that. Change the visibility state, delete contents on a layer. It has become quite a lot easier to use. Not only that, but we've also worked on status display. So if you remember, status display would allow you to filter between different entries to see a part of the drawings that you needed. And I've created an example here, and you will immediately see what changed. So if we filter for plate thickness in these submaterials, you can immediately see that they are now colored per plate thickness. So I've added some coloring before, and they are now categorized per color. So you can easily see what plates you actually need, which submaterials you actually need to edit or do something with. So that's quite an improvement, if you ask me. Not only that, but, and I've already shown you this, and you had a sneak peek before, the erection view cleanup and many other functions have been overhauled. So erection view cleanup is 20 times faster, if you ask me. Before, it would be a very chunky, slow function. Icons would load quite slow. Now, you have this easy-to-use interface. Changes that you make in the function are also immediately visible in the drawing while you are changing them. This was not the case before. So that's that dynamic interface that we are going for really should improve your workflow in 2026. Also, bill of materials, another one of those functions. These are not the only two functionalities that have been changed, but I'm just showing you a couple of them. Bill of material, we have added a lot of extra functionality where you can manually adjust a lot of things, whereas before you would just have to agree with the defaults in many cases, which right now is not the case anymore. You can make changes any way you want. And that includes just a small part of those improvements that we have in the drawing editor. I can talk about this quite some time, but let's go for one of our final topics.
I know we've done something revisions. Revisions are never fun to do, but have we done anything there to help the customer through that experience?
That's correct. Revisions are never fun to do, but if they are done correctly and with less errors, that would also be nice. And that's why we should maybe watch this video together. It will show you the new functionalities that we've added. So multi-edit revision chart, what does it do? It is actually a bulk action that will quickly change a lot of revisions at the same time, meaning less errors, much faster, and much faster. Like any other SDS2 functionality, we can make a selection beforehand, and these selections can, of course, be saved again. So you don't need to remember what drawings you selected last time. You can just save your selection, reopen it, and you can even share that with your colleagues, for example. So right now, I'm opening a selection, then I click Edit, and it will show me all the revisions that are within this selection that I made. So there's 4 of them here. They might apply to multiple drawings at the same time, but I only see them 4 times here. We've also added a date picker. Might be a small change, but it's an important one. It didn't exist in the 25 version. And when we change a date, for example, in this case, it will show us what changes have been made. And we can agree to that or cancel these changes. We can also delete a revision if you want that, but usually something like that wouldn't be wise to do, but you can do it, and then it will show you that the revision has been deleted. I think that concludes it a bit for revisions. We have a few small other improvements, but I think Doug will talk about that a bit more.
It would be nice to just delete revisions and say they never happened, but it is nice that we have an ability to handle them as a little cleaner than we did in the past. And so these are just some of the updates in 2026. I know there's other enhancements and bug fixes that we've released, so please go through the release notes. And so with that, I do appreciate everyone attending the SDS2 2026 seminar. And so we covered kind of the 3 areas again. We had the database items, the model authoring, and the drawing output. There's a number of new features that'll help with productivity. So please download the new version and try those out.
Yeah, thanks for listening.